Good morning and welcome to Tuesday of my week in March vlogs that I always hesitate over how to say. I am just setting up to get dyeing. The washing machine is on in the utility room, which you can probably hear really loudly, so apologies for that, but real life, I have massive mound of, I've probably got about 3 loads of laundry that needs to go on. I've also got 2 loads of laundry that needs to, clean laundry, that needs to get put away. Yeah. Real life everyday stuff is not happening at the moment because so much work stuff is happening. Anyway, I hope it's not too loud. I am just getting the pans on to set up for dyeing today. Today I am dyeing, I have my list of everything that is getting dyed today. So I am dyeing some of the new Grimm's collection this morning. So Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty and Elves and the Shoemaker. All of those, so Little Red Riding Hood and Elves and the Shoemaker will be the same as the club one was, but Sleeping Beauty's had a bit of a revamp because the way I did it for the club wasn't going to really work well for reproduction for a collection, if that makes sense. So I've reimagined that one slightly. And then I've got a little bit of the Narnia collection to dye later as well, looking at that. Yeah. All East Anglia dyeing, all stuff I can show you in colour, which will be good. So yeah, I'm just trying to get the pans on. I reuse as much water as I physically can, because obviously you don't want to waste water. I mean, we're very lucky in Dundee and possibly all of Scotland actually, I'm not 100% sure, in that we don't pay a water bill as such. We're not on a water meter or anything like that. All of our water rates and our water stuff is done through our council tax. So everybody pays the same based on the size of their household and stuff like that, I think. I'm not sure. But it means that we don't have a water bill, which is quite nice because I just think of it as that's us paying our council tax and that's how much our council tax costs. And then I don't need to worry about a water bill. But at the same time, I'm conscious of how much water I use and I try and reuse as much as possible. So I've got, you can see a washing up bowl just there. That is actually the water that I've taken out of the pans from yesterday. Which was all exhausted and all clean. I've taken the water out the pans, given the pans a wash so that any kind of excess dye on them is cleaned off, and then I'll reuse that water for today's pans. So all the time it exhausts and is clear water, I can do that and use it as often as possible and as much as possible, which is good. So I need to get these pans. I'm going to do some fancy editing so that it looks like what's going to actually be probably an hour plus of work happens in seconds and you get magically dyed yarn. So in this pan we have Little Red Riding Hood. In this pan we have Sleeping Beauty. And in this pan we have the Elves and the Shoemaker. So, do you want to see all the self-striping colourways that I'm taking to East Anglia? Because I've finally got one, well, I've got at least one ball of each wound. I was kind of waiting until I'd got, well, as I said, until I'd got a ball of each wound. I've got loads of a few of them, but there were some of the new ones that I only dyed last week and I haven't had chance to wind those ones up yet. I'm rambling. Would you like to see them? There's a few new ones that still need names. So here they all are. Apologies if this is slightly dodgy camera work. We have got It's a Rainy Sunny Day. That took me a while to remember the name. This is a regular one. It's the same as my Storm's End, but you've got a wide stripe of the blue and then narrow stripes of the rainbows. So I will have that one with me. I've also got Highlands. If my camera will focus, there we go. I've also got a Highlands, which is one of my favourite new colourways, and I always think it's a really good one for shows, especially, well, it's a good one for shows in a number of ways, because I dyed it up inspired by the Scottish Highlands, and I took it to both Perth and Glasgow, because obviously they were Scottish shows, but now I'm a dyer that lives in Scotland going to an English show, so I thought actually having a Scottish colourway would make sense. So yeah, we have Highlands. It's also Easter It's around Easter time. We're coming up to Easter. So I had to bring back Eggs and Bunnies, which is one of my Easter colourways. I love this colourway. This is a really, really old colourway. It's one of my very first self-striping colourways. I'm going to have to see if I've got any scraps left so that I can knit a little sample. I do have a pair of socks in them, but the pair of socks is so old that they definitely are not in good enough condition to be a sample. And then these are the 3 new colourways. So we have, these don't have names. We have this one, which is a lovely kind of pastel. You've got 2 pinks, a purple, a blue and a turquoise. And actually what I'll do is if I hold that there, I'll pop the little inspiration image up next to it to see if that helps give you any ideas for names. This is a bit of a random one for names, really, because it isn't really inspired by something specific. Then there's this one, which is, again, is another new one. And I really like this one. This one's nice and springy. So you've got 2, see if I can find a good spot. 2 pinks, a kind of orangey pink, a green and a yellow. And I think that the flower, again, I'll put the inspiration image up next to it. I think the flower that this one was inspired by is called a zinnia. So I'm wondering whether I just call the colourway zinnia. Is that too obscure? I don't know. It's pretty though. And then the final one, and this one I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with Cherry Blossom for the name. Because again, if I pop the inspiration image up on the side there, you'll be able to see why I think that's a good name. But I love this one. So again, you've got 2 pinks. You've then got this kind of slightly more reddish pink. Excuse my green fingernail, that's the dye. You've got this pale minty stripe and then a grey stripe. So yeah, they are our 6 colourways that are coming to East Anglia with me. And of course, as always, any colourways any yip skeins that are left over will go straight in the shop after the show. And I'm going to be doing them as 100 gram skeins. And then I'm also doing 50 gram skeins with minis, which is a good point. I need to dye the minis and decide on the mini colourways. I'm just going to take a colour out of the stripe and do that as one of the minis, because that's what I like to do. But yeah. Did you spot my candle? I love this. I ordered was it a Middle Earth themed box from a small candle and wax melt company. Annoyingly, they've actually closed. This was literally one of the last things they were doing, and I just managed to get in right at the end. But I got 2. So it was all Lord of the Rings inspired. So we've got a Rivendell candle, which is apple, peach, florals and vanilla. And then I'll show you the other bits as well, actually, because it was really, really fun. All of our candles and wax melts live in this drawer in our coffee table. So it also came with a Prancing Pony candle, lemon, whiskey and wood. And then there was a birthday cake wax melt slab, because obviously it's Bilbo's birthday, which is, I can't actually read that from here, jam cake and vanilla frosting. And then it came with a Fellowship snap bar, Warmwood's vetiver, and patchouli. I never know how to say that word. And then also Second Breakfast lemon curd wax snap bar. And finally, and how cool is this for a Lord of the Rings inspired? Look at that, another wax melt bar. And this one was called the One Ring. Orange, sandalwood and amber. But I love that. They've gone to so much effort to actually make the ring. So yeah, if they ever come back again, I would highly recommend them. They're called the Little Bookish Company. And it was a Middle Earth exclusive box. And yeah, it was such a shame to discover them literally as they were closing. Because I'm so pleased with what I got in the Middle Earth box that I would have loved to have ordered more. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout for things like this. So if you know any little small businesses in the UK that do this kind of thing, then let me know. Right, it is a lot later in the day. It's now about 5:30. Tom has just got home and he's taken over dinner because I wanted to come up and talk to you about something. So one of the issues I have with vending at shows, and it's not really an issue, but as I'm sure most of you know, my business, my website, everything that I dye yarn is very heavily inspired by literature and books and things like that, which online and on Instagram and on my website, it's very easy to make that clear. I can put photographs which include the books that the collections are based on. I can share bits about them. I can, it's much easier to make that clear, and they sell well because of that. Because, who doesn't love a Winnie the Pooh collection? If it appeals to you, your love of that book, your love of that memories and that nostalgia, then it's going to appeal to you. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm trying to say? The theme works and translates well online and translates well on my website, but it doesn't translate well at shows. And one of the things that I found over the years at shows is that people don't really get that my yarn is inspired by books. They don't really get that my yarn is inspired by different things. And I've tried doing signs. So at Perth, for example, Perth 2021, I had a whole grid wall of the Winnie the Pooh collection, and at the top of the grid wall I had a sign that said Winnie the Pooh collection and all the the yarn details and price list and everything like that. And the same with, was it the cupcake collection I think I had, not book themed, and will be retiring at some point this year, but anyway. But people don't read signs at shows, and that is no criticism of people that come to shows, but it's just a generally accepted thing that people don't tend to read signs at shows. Even if you've got 4 or 5 price lists on your stall, people will still ask you for the price. They just don't tend to read signs, basically, and as a result, I find it quite hard to communicate that kind of the way that the theme draws people in on my website and on my social media doesn't draw people in the same way at shows. And that's not to say I do badly at shows, I don't at all. But I've been trying to think, is there a way that I can create my stall and my display that will translate that and communicate my theme at a show without the need for signs and without something that customers and people that are visiting are going to have to read, but in a way that has quite a high impact and gets the point across kind of straight away. So, all of that to say I've had an idea. And I'm going to test the idea out. And that is why we are currently up in Jasper's bedroom. You can see his bed behind us. In fact, was it Vlogmas? Was it Vlogmas we were talking about? Changing what we were doing with Jasper's bed? I can't remember now. But we'd said we were going to change the underside of his bed. Let's lift you up so you can see a bit better. It's a bit messy at the moment. So we took the mattress out. The mattress is now just on the floor at the bottom there. And we've put plywood down on the base just over the slats. So it's still perfectly usable as a bed if we need it at any point. But yeah, we've managed to get 2 Kallax units in there and another little unit that fits in the gap. And all of his toys are now in there, which gives him a much bigger floor space in his room in order to be able to play, rather than having the Kallax units and the toys, and he had his chest of drawers here and all that kind of thing. Anyway, we did it and it worked and I'm happy with it. But I'm in Jasper's room because Jasper has a little bookshelf. And I've been researching bookshelves and trying to work out a way to utilise bookshelves in my show, in my display for my show. And I was going to order one and then it was out of stock. And then I found some that will be perfect, but they're really expensive. And I kind of need to just try this out at a show, see if it has the impact that I want it to have before I invest in more expensive bookshelves for my display. So anyway, I'm going to show you what Jasper's got, and then I will talk you through my plan and get my plan in action, maybe. So this is Jasper's bookshelf. I need to just readjust the shelves slightly because we've got it spaced so that his Lego boxes, I really need to hoover, so that his Lego boxes fit under the bottom here. But it's just a little kind of 3-tier bookshelf. And I thought I'm probably going to end up using this one unless the grey version comes back into stock at Argos before the show. I'm probably going to end up taking this one with me. But my plan is to have a bookshelf on a table and have yarn and then the sort of the books that the yarn relates to next to it as part of a display. And then I'll have grid wall with all the yarn on. So it'll just be kind of like a skein of each of the collection and maybe the minis on the display and have like a bookshelf display. I'm hoping it works. I'm going to give it a go right now. Okay, so this is the plan. In my head, there was loads more space on the shelves than there actually is, of course. But I think I can make it work. So basically, I'm taking 3 main book collections with me. I'm taking my Winnie the Pooh collection, and the yarn is all completely wrong for this, by the way. The Winnie the Pooh collection, I'm taking the Narnia collection, and I'm taking the new Grimm's collection. So 3 shelves was what I was thinking. So the Narnia collection has 10 colourways, and then obviously the minis. The Winnie the Pooh collection has 6 colourways and then the minis, and then the Grimm's collection will have 5 colourways and then the minis. So I might have a little bit of extra space on that bottom shelf, but and this bookshelf will be displayed on a table. So it'll be up on a table, so it'll be at eye height, whereas obviously at the moment it's on the floor, which makes it harder to judge. I'm thinking of getting some little fairy lights to put in the backs of each, so to just go round kind of, I'll put them around, oops, helps if I point the camera in the right direction, around the back edges of each shelf, just to kind of light them up from inside a little bit more, because I think that might be needed. Obviously it's really hard to know what the lighting's going to be like, and at the moment, I mean, it's now 5:30. I've got the overhead light on, so the lighting in here is not great anyway, but you never know what it's going to be like at a show. But that's my plan. So basically each shelf will have the yarn that belongs to the collection, the book and the minis for the collection, and then the main yarn, all the yarn, will be on grid wall. So hopefully the idea is that the books will draw people's eyes in, and they'll be like, oh, Narnia, oh, I love the Narnia books, and then they'll look at all the colourways and they'll find the colourways that they love, and then I can direct them to the grid wall where all the colourways will be on whatever bases I've got and stuff like that. That's the plan. And I'm also hoping, at the moment, there's obviously Lego because I've had to move all of Jasper's Lego. But I'm also hoping to get a sign. So I've not had a decent Giddy yarn sign at all, really. I've got one of those roller banners, but it's out of, like, it doesn't fit with my current branding. So I'm thinking of getting a sign, like a printed sign thingy. I've seen them on Vistaprint, the ones I want to get, which will stand on the top of the bookshelves. And give me some signage, which would be good too, because that's always useful. But yeah, do we think it's going to work? I'm still a little bit hesitant. I'm probably going to actually take Jasper's shelf to save myself a bit of money. He'll have to live with his Lego being put away for a little bit, or just put on the floor for a weekend. But yeah, that is my plan. Hopefully it will work.